Now observe the lady in the middle. Now, most church people will probably criticize the lady's carnival attire, but did the Bible not say that we need to first take out the plank from our eyes so that we will be in a better position to see better, so that we can take the plank out of another person's eye? Now observe how this lady is dressed for her carnival. The same way that this lady is dressed, this is how we see some of the people in the church. Now the lady's breast, cleavage and all of that is exposed, and in some cases it is worse in the church. Everything that you see there now in front of you is what they have brought into the church. You see, now this lady is even better dressed than a lot of people who go to church, because her head is covered. But in churches now, they stop covering their heads. They stop covering their heads. What we have is a situation now where people are now, church people are actually taking their cue from the systems of the world. So look at where our style, our mannerisms, our way of dress is coming from. It is coming from the world system. Because when you go to these churches these days, this is exactly what you see. You see people dressed in carnival costumes to come into the house of God, with every part of their body out and exposed. That is what is going on in the church. This is what is happening. So we are copying the style of the world. But this is what happens when you reject the precepts of God. Because we have a situation where biblically we see in the Bible that we are supposed to dress moderately. But the Antichrist in the church have moved away from the precepts of God, and the people are now, they are allowing the people to come into the house of God half naked, breast out, backside out, everything exposed in the house of God. And even this lady right now, who is in her carnival costume, is better dressed than a lot of people who go to church. At least her head is covered. Now what is happening is, you have a situation as was shown in Romans chapter 1. You know, when the word of God is being neglected, when people are fighting the word of God, he gives them up to a reprobate mind to do whatever it is that they feel, and then they defile themselves. And a lot of these church people, even the church leaders, a lot of them, they have a reprobate mind, because the precepts of God, they have kicked against it. They have rebelled against the precepts of God, and now they are bringing the systems of the world into the church. So right now, the carnival people, some carnival people are dressed even better and more appropriately than church people. This is what that's what's happening. Now, we know that the people, when they go to this carnival thing, they are not serving God. Every raising of the hand is a raising of the hand to devils. You raising your hand to Baphomet when you present yourself in these carnival celebrations. So the same way those people are dressed, they dress scantily and raising their hands, the people in the church, when they dress anyhow, with breast out, backside out, and everything out, and raising their hands, they are not raising their hands to the creator of heaven and earth. They are raising their hands, many of them, to the same gods that the people worship in carnival. There is a reason why the Lord asks people to dress appropriately. And right now we have a situation where people come half naked. You know, it may be that some of the pastors want to see the breasts and they want to see the legs. So they are not saying anything. They're just allowing anything to happen into the house of God now. You can dress anyhow and come into the house of God. And the pastors are not going to tell you anything, most of them, because they just want to see the churches filled. But they are just filling up dance halls for hell. We are copying the systems of the world. We are copying the dress patterns of the world. And we are trying to now transplant them into the house of God. That is what is happening. At least this lady has the decency and the audacity to cover her head. But the church people are not covering their heads. They're coming into the house of God. People were doing that before. When I was in the church before, when I just accepted maybe I was a teenager still around 16 years. People were covering their heads. Those without hats were having like a veil on their heads. But right now it is like open season and everybody is just coming to the house of God anyhow. Anyhow. This is why the Spirit of God is not moving in these houses. This is why we are in the last days and the Spirit of God is supposed to be pouring down on all flesh. And people are supposed to be having dreams of real things that are to happen. They're supposed to be having visions of real things that are happening and supposed to happen. But they're not having dreams. They're not having visions. Because the Spirit of God is not in those churches. Those churches are like carnival houses now. Even the men. Look at how the men dress. Some of the men dress like, these guys come and you can see all their male parts. You can see all their balls bulging from their pants because the pants are too tight. They come into the house of God anyhow. You see, just as this man here has this sleeveless, this vest. Some of them even want to come to the house of God this way. And their excuse is that they said to render your heart and not the garment. And that's not what the Bible said. It is rend your heart, tear your heart and not your garment. Open up your heart, tear your heart, tear it apart and let God come in. And do not tear your garment. Because when people were mourning or they were in sackcloth and they were sorrowful and things like that, pious people that were trying to play like they were pious, they were tearing their clothes as a sign of penitence. But God is saying, tear. Open your heart and not your garment. Let me tell you, man, this thing has to stop. This thing has to stop. The harvest that the Lord is looking for is not in these churches. These churches are allowing people to dress anyhow, breast out, backside out, arm out, legs fly out. This is not the house of God. We are supposed to prepare a bride for Jesus. And this thing that are happening there is not, it is not of God. If you're dressing like that, the Spirit of God is not moving in them churches. If that's how it is not moving. Don't be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever a man soweth, that shall he reap. The Spirit of God cannot dwell in these churches where you have people breast out, backside out, arms out, head uncovered. The Spirit of God is not in them places. You cannot be calling people revelers of carnival and telling them that they are doing abominable thing when you are doing the same thing too. You're doing worse. At least these people had covered. You're not even covered. You are just like them. These people are your trendsetters in the house of God now, because you reject the code of dressing that the Lord gave. He gave the people away to a reprobate mind to do what they want, because they're not listening to the precepts. They do not want to dress moderately. But look now what they have brought into the house of God. Look what they have turned the house of God into now. They are copying the system, the same way people dress for carnival. They are bringing that into the house of God. Judgment, 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 judgment.